Welcome back, everybody, to the Success Partner Podcast. I am your host, Daya Naef, and I have with me today in the studio Jon Hood, who is a Fractional General Counsel. Jon,
Hi, great to be with you. Thank you so much.
you are very welcome. And so we will just jump in as a casual conversation. Tell us a little bit about what a Fractional General Counsel does.
Great question. So, a lot of people have heard of a fractional CFO or a COO, and basically what that is growing companies have a need for somebody to help them with finances, with operations, with marketing, what have you, but they don't have the need or the budget to hire someone full time. So we do the same thing for companies with respect to their legal needs. We'll quarterback the issues that they're having, review contracts, negotiate agreements, help them enter into deals, assess M&A opportunities. And then we'll also bring in outside counsel for things that are outside of our expertise. So a client gets sued, we'll bring in litigation counsel. They need help with a patent, we'll bring in special IP counsel. So we really try to take not just the legal work off their plate, but the stress that goes along with having to keep track of all those threads and kind of worry about what they might be missing.
Oh, that's awesome. So what's your favorite type of company to work for?
It's a good question. I mean, we work with, tech companies, software companies, e-commerce, service providers of all kinds. I like having that variety in terms of the actual industry, right? But what I really like are companies that still feel like a startup, and they might not be brand new. I mean, they could be several years old. They could have several $1 million a year in revenue, but they still have that kind of that sort of new and scrappy energy where everybody really feels like they've been there since the beginning and they're kind of working toward building something great. I've found with companies, it's almost inevitable that eventually you get to a place where, things settle out a bit and it's a little more buttoned up in corporate, right, which has its advantages. But I worked at a fairly early stage ed tech startup before I started my firm. So I have a soft spot for those kind of early scrappy companies.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, you're wearing all the hats and doing all the things. So
Yes,
yeah.
totally. Yeah.
When does a company know that they need to bring in somebody like you?
It really depends. I mean, a lot of the earlier stage companies that I work with, they might call me a couple times a month and it's just, oh, we got an agreement that we need reviewed and it's something, beyond kind of what we normally see. Other companies will need more comprehensive support earlier on. So if they have a good amount of intellectual property, if they're in a highly regulated industry, they may have more agreements or more complex agreements that they're entering into. Or, I mean, just well-capitalized companies. So I have some clients where it's a founder who had a previous exit, or they came out of a C-suite at a bigger company, so they have a little bit more cash to play with, and they usually have a better idea of where they want to take the company. So they're kind of operating at the level that a bigger company would be operating at, even at an earlier stage. So it really just depends. And again, we can work with them, a couple hours a month. It could be they need us 10 hours a month right away, 20 hours a month. We're flexible with kind of how we structure it and how involved they want us to be.
Oh, okay. I love that. So what's your smallest versus largest, I guess, client?
So I don't get a ton of brand new companies, but I do get, every year I get a few people who are, I want to set up a company. And again, I have a very sort of specific way that I know I want to structure it and I want to put together a stock plan or what have you. So it could be a brand new company that doesn't even exist yet. All the way up through, I always say we cap out typically around 25 million in revenue. I mean, I think my biggest client now, I would guess, is probably in that range, maybe a little bit smaller than that. And those are people who, again, they have sort of an in-house CFO. They have other counsel in other countries if they have a footprint elsewhere. So they have a lot going on already, and they'll kind of leave the U.S. legal work to us.
Got it. Yeah, and I know you're based in New York.
That's right.
Yeah. So are your clients mostly in New York or all over?
A lot of them are in New York. We have clients all over, especially since COVID. I mean, really, even before that, just because of the profile of people that we work with, we had people all over. But especially since COVID, a lot of people moved. They're doing the the hybrid or the totally virtual thing. So we have people all over the country, and we have a growing number of people where they have a U.S. company and either they personally are based overseas or they have a complete outpost in another country. And then they also have a U.S. presence. So we're sort of we have a global presence, even though we sit here in New York.
Oh, I love that. But of course, New York, I mean, that's a global capital, if you will.
That's true.
Yeah,
It does happen.
I had studied international law in law school, and I was like, I'm totally going to be doing something international and the whole thing, and it didn't work out that way.
It's funny. I always feel like that's sort of a mirage because there's really no such thing, unless you're representing people overseas all the time, right? You have an idea in law school of, I'm going to fly over here and litigate something and then fly here. And it's like, yeah, that's not really quite how it works. But but they do make it sound more exciting than it is.
It was very, very glamorous. Yes. They hooked me into all the expensive study abroad programs and all that.
Exactly.
Totally. For me, right?
Yeah, horrible. Yeah.
So what is the most fun thing or the most enjoyable aspect of your work?
I really like, it sounds a little bit cliche, but I love acting I almost prefer thinking of myself sometimes as an advisor to my clients, because they'll come, especially when you're working on a more ongoing basis, they'll really come to you with a lot of the problems that they have, especially once you've been working together for a while and they trust you. So a lot of my clients will come to me with questions that aren't really legal, right? But they'll say, we're having a problem with our, our books. We need to switch them from cash to accrual, and we don't know where to start. And our current accounting team can't support us. Do you have anyone who could help? Or what do you think about this issue? We're thinking about making a change. And I don't pretend to be qualified to answer most of those non-legal questions for them, right? But at least I have a good network of people that I can bring in and refer them to. And when I can do that, when I can, satisfy a need that they have, especially when it's time sensitive or something else is riding on it, that's really what makes me feel good, because it makes me feel like I'm going beyond, again, the four corners of whatever document I'm reviewing and really being an advisor and a business partner to them.
Yeah, I love that. The trusted advisor. So you're you're in the C-suite, even if you're not necessarily in the office there with them. Yeah,
exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What do you think is like the biggest risk or biggest challenge for people in this startup space?
It depends in part on, again, the type of company that they have, right? Like if you can take an extreme example of somebody opening a marijuana dispensary or something, right? Like obviously it's a highly regulated industry. You want to make sure you have all the right licenses and permits, what have you. But for kind of a vanilla, call it tech startup or something, it's really, it's a mix of having agreements that protect you and having, things that protect your confidential information, your intellectual property, making sure that you have arrangements and agreements that set out the scope of your employees' responsibilities, or if you have independent contractors, making sure that they're not actually employees that you're trying to fit into the independent contractor box. And there's often, especially with tech and software companies, there's an intellectual property component where you want to make sure you're not accidentally infringing on someone else's IP, and also that you're protecting your own IP. So I think those are always kind of the three most common buckets: are sort of contracts, employment, intellectual property, especially in the early stages.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So when you're not working, what do you do? What do you do for fun?
I love being outside. When it's not here in New York, it's as I get older, I can't tolerate the heat as much. I used to really hate the winter. I actually don't mind the winter now. It's also getting a little warmer in the winter here. But I love being outside when it's halfway pleasant. I like to run. I like to garden. And my wife and I both are big animal lovers. So we have kind of a menagerie of dogs, cats. We have a couple rabbits, and we volunteer with a couple local rescues. So we foster regularly. And so that keeps me that keeps me busy. Usually when I'm not working, I'm cleaning the house and, feeding the animals.
Yeah, I love that. I've fostered before, but they became foster failures, and they're mine.
Oh,
They're
really?
mine now. They're mine now.
That is a common risk. We've definitely had some of those. Yeah. 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 You end up with like 18, dogs or cats or something because you're like, I like this one too.
I know. It just has such a great personality. We bonded. What can
Exactly.
we say?
What can I say? Yeah. Yeah. They don't want to leave.
Yeah,
That's funny.
that's wonderful. Yeah, animals are a big part of my life and my family as well. So,
It's nice. And, I work from home a lot. So, it's a double-edged sword, right? We don't have kids. So I at least don't have my, kids barging in during a Zoom, but you do get, you got to kick the cat out of the office before you hop on or
yeah.
something. But at the same time, it's nice to not be, in a house alone all day if you're working from home. So it does provide an advantage there.
Yes. Mine are very needy. I think mine was in the windowsill earlier when we started the call, and they
Oh, really?
yeah, they don't like the idea of me like leaving the house ever. But oh
Right.
well.
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Got to pay the bills somehow. Yeah.
Well, how do people find you?
So they can go to our website, which is Jon Hood, JONHOODESQ.com. I'm on LinkedIn. And they can always call, we have a phone number on our website. I'm always happy to talk to anybody. A lot of people who have legal questions that I talk to, it's either not the right time. I might not be the right fit for them. They might need somebody who really practices in a different area. But like I said, the satisfaction I get from my work is helping people and hopefully driving people toward a solution. So, if I can't help them or I think I'm not the best fit, I have a great network of people that I can refer them to. And I'm always just, again, working from home, especially for the most part, it's great to meet cool people starting or running a business. And I've made a lot of friends in this line of work.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, of course, networking and connecting people is my favorite thing to do too. So
It is. Yes. And you're quite good at it. Yeah.
thank you. Well, all your information will be in the show notes so people can connect with you and follow you. And thank you, everybody, for listening and watching today's episode of the Success Partner Podcast with Daya Naef. And thanks again to our guest, Jon Hood.
Thank you so much, Daya.